Hey, welcome again to another episode of Saul FRAZER's BizzChat, a podcast where we share ideas, motivate entrepreneurs, and hoping to inspire them to greater wins. In today's topic, we want to look at communication, how to use communication in the most effective way within the business environment. Now, obviously, the word communication or the subject, it's quite broad that it will require probably 3 to 5 sessions to cover everything, but I just want to look at the general overview of some of the things that you should put into consideration, especially when you're visiting an office for a meeting or just speaking to somebody or trying to get your ideas across. The important thing of communication is it cannot be underestimated, to be honest. I remember during the first 5 years of my business career, to be honest, I'm not sure if I ever did one interview because it was something I was dreading so much, doing interviews or doing meetings that required me to speak a lot or in front of the public, because at that time I didn't believe I harnessed my communication skills, or I didn't know much about it. It became an interesting topic for me when I realized that there's no one better to sell my story than myself. If I'm not able to sell my business or sell the ideas that I have, who can do it for me? Who can do it better for me? So it was when I started taking communication extremely important, to the extent that I took some extra courses to learn the art of communication. And I'm still learning, 10 years later. But that just shows that it's such a broad topic that it's difficult to master all aspects. But getting these tips here and there, learning the trade, can set you in a path to keep improving over and over again. So you see a lot of instances where people will come to your office for a meeting, and generally you give it a second or two to see whether they will get themselves seated, or they will wait for you to ask them to sit. And it's funny, I must say that perhaps 90% of the people will just come and sit straight away. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but it is advisable that when you enter the office, you stand and wait to be asked to sit. Once you do that, it gives you some sort of like an upper hand, and it gives you attention from the person that you're there to meet. If you just come and sit straight away, the likelihood of the person continue to do what he was doing, either reading the mail or doing other things, it's much more likely than if he actually asks you to sit. Because the moment he asks you to sit, now there's this power of when you just enter the office and wait. Now you're waiting for your time. So the moment this guy sets you off, now he's giving you your time that you're there for. And you get the welcome, you sit, and then you start your presentation. Again, the attention span nowadays, with so many distractions, the phone is ringing, somebody's trying to get your attention, you're doing so many other things. It is important that you set the tone right. The first 20 or 30 seconds, probably maybe the first minute, it is important to address why you're there and why this particular person should give you their time, and also what is it that you're trying to achieve. Yes, it sounds tough, it sounds difficult, but this is just the hook to say, hey, I am here today to show you an opportunity that you couldn't resist. So therefore, I have a 2-3 minute presentation for you. If someone says that to me, I'm eager to give you 2-3 minutes to listen intensively to know exactly what is it that you're saying. But if you come there and start saying, oh, I was born in 19, I'm from Cambridge, and stuff like that, then it becomes something very normal, so consider that at all time. But when speaking as well, remember to have a good voice. Okay, not a voice per se, but a good tone, the speed of how you speak, because some people have this tendency to speak very fast, and yes, you must catch up, but it doesn't really sound good in the ear of the person who's listening. Remember that the way you might speak at home or with your homeboys or friends out there can be totally different from how you would present yourself or how you would speak in an office environment. It is important that the message is getting across clearly in a manner that it's pleasant for the counterperson to be able to hear everything that you're saying clearly. Now, it is also a good opportunity to whilst you're there, ask certain questions, because most of the time we have an idea of what we want to do or how we want to go about it, especially when you're dealing with a counterpart. But always have at the back of your mind a question or two, because that opportunity is going to come when they ask you, well, okay, is that all? Is there anything that you would like to know? Do not say no and only to go back later and send a text message or call to say, oh, I forgot to ask this, I forgot to ask this. That shows that you were not prepared for this particular meeting. So always have 2 or 3 questions at the back of your mind, should the opportunity come, so you'll be able to ask those questions. It's always good at the end to also summarize and basically say, okay, this is what you came for, and then put your request forward. Very likely, you'll be told that, okay, we'll put it into consideration and get back to you. When that is said, try to get an answer or a timeline of when are they likely to get back to you. Don't just say, okay, I'll wait for a call or I wait for a text. Probe. The person's going to say, well, okay, I'll get back to you. Say, okay, fine, great. I look forward to hearing from you. However, when are you likely to get back to me? Well, later tomorrow or before the end of the week. Now you have a timeline of when you should do your follow-up. Because if you don't have the sort of idea of when to call back for follow-up, it makes it difficult to know when to call or when to text. But if you're giving a time, let's say by close of business tomorrow, if you don't hear from the person, then you can call back the following day just to say, hey, I was expecting you to get back to me yesterday, but I didn't hear from you. I thought you might have forgot, so let me just give you a reminder, not to say, oh, you were supposed to call me back and you didn't call me. What's going on? Things like that. So just frame it in a nice way so that the person will be, oh, okay, yes, definitely, I forgot, or this is what happened. So there are different ways to really communicate and get your message out there. These are some of the things that you should put into consideration when going for a business meeting. Again, first impressions really last. It's an old saying. So therefore, the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, and when giving the opportunity to sit, even the way that you sit to communicate. You see a lot of people going into offices and just slouching, or then you have a swing chair and you start moving from left to right and things like that. Those chairs are not meant for that. It's meant for basically for you to sit in a straight manner as much as you can, and also communicate clearly. Like I said, most of the time there's no timeline for the meetings that you go into, especially when you go to see someone. So make the best out of the 2-3 minutes that you're given so that you leave an everlasting impression. Never think that there'll be a second opportunity, because people tend to not be prepared, and then there's this saying that if you don't prepare, then you prepare to fail. It's as simple as that. Preparation is key. Preparation is key. Remember, you've been writing, you've been texting, you've been calling to get this particular appointment for a very long time. Now that you've gotten it, this 2-3 minutes that you're given, make the absolute best out of it. Keep eye contact for most of the time when you're speaking, and just speak. And remember, you're not at home, you're not in a nightclub, neither are you in the restaurant. So speak as it meant it was basically your life-saving opportunity. There are these unwritten rules or sort of basic ethics that it's important to put into consideration as well when you're having a business meeting or networking. Again, I keep repeating this, but we have the habit of whatever we're doing at home, taking all the way, whether we're going to an office, whether we're going somewhere else. It's a habit that is sometimes very difficult to leave behind. But again, each environment requires different sorts of adaptation. Now, some of the things that boggles me sometimes is you have a meeting with someone, and an hour or maybe a day later, they will come back and say, I didn't actually hear what you said, or I didn't understand what you said. And then the first thing that goes to mind is, okay, maybe what else didn't you understand? What else didn't you remember? Because if you're saying that that is the particular moment that you couldn't remember, it's difficult to believe. What is wrong with asking the right questions at that particular moment? Yes, some people are shy. Some people are, I don't know, maybe afraid to ask. But those are the best times to actually ask. If you're speaking to somebody and they say something that you didn't hear them say properly, you can gently ask and say, oh, by the way, can you rephrase what you just said? Or can you say it in a different way so that I can understand it better? That's a nicer way of asking. What is it that you say? Can you try to explain it a little bit more? Or if someone says something that you don't understand and you don't get it, instead of just saying, asking them to repeat, you can just simply say, excuse me, can you say it in a different way? Or can you explain it a little bit more so I can understand? The key thing is when you're communicating with each other is to understand each other. If the person that you're speaking to or listening to is saying something that's not clear to you, that is not a communication. That is a monotone. That's them speaking on themselves or for themselves. But you, the person on the other side, the receiving, you have to make sure that you receive it correctly. If not, there's nothing wrong to ask them to clarify or speak in a different tone that would make it more conversational rather than just sitting there and nodding when you don't actually understand anything that they're saying. In today's world, the use of technology is quite vast. People use it in different ways and forms, especially the phone. Now, I personally believe that if you call someone once as a missed call, you call again twice, 3 times, there should be a limit to how long you can continue calling this person. I believe that 3 is usually the magic number. Even if you call someone and it rings once, twice, or 3 times, then you should just cut it there. There's this thing called miscalled, and the person will sooner or later see that there was a call that was trying to get through. If the person wants to return the call, they will obviously return the call, or maybe they will return it at a later stage. I don't think there's any use of keep calling, insisting like most people will do, and that can be pretty annoying. Now, when you also sending a text message to someone for the first time, or maybe after the missed call, you can send a message. Now, if it is someone you've never spoken to before, I think it's important that when you send the message, you don't just send a hi and then wait for a reply. So you send a hi, the person sends another hi, and then send a hello, and the person sends another hello as well. So you can imagine where this is leading to. But if you're sending a message for the first time, I think it's important to write basically who you are, where you got the contact from, and what is it that you want from this person. And I can guarantee you that the likelihood of you getting a response, it's way, way higher than with just abnormal hi, hellos, how are you, and the like. Again, most people are busy these days, and our attention spans are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So if you really want a quick response from someone, make sure that on that introductory text, you put as much information as possible and just wait for the reply to come through. There are moments when people will just be blowing your phone left, right, and center. And it can be pretty annoying. Just keep that in mind. Or put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're calling. How would you feel if someone keep insisting and calling all the time? Luckily, we have the option of not just calling, but also sending text messages so that it's there. And guess what? These text messages are not deleted automatically unless the person reads it and decides to delete it. So if the person that you contacted really wants to get in touch with you, they will, one way or the other. So keep that in mind. In terms of emailing, just like any other form of communication, to get the person's attention in the first sentences is crucial. That will determine whether the rest of the message is going to be read or not read. And it's important to remember to keep it brief and get your message across. Now, some people will send email as if they're writing essays, and then some people will just write emails in a very informal ways. When writing to institution, it might work, but the likelihood of not working is also very high. So there are tons of books, tons of podcasts and YouTube messages or videos that teach you the way of how you should communicate. And I'll advise you to never stop learning, to keep improving on everything that you do, and keep studying the best way to catch people's attentions. Because if you don't, you are likely not to get what you want out of these communications. So take it seriously. If I'm gonna rate communication out of importance to making your business successful, I will give it more than 70%, because that's how you not only attract the audience, the stakeholders, the customers, and everyone around you. So without clear communication, without being great in communication, the progress or the success rate of your business is likely to be affected. Proper communication skills doesn't just limit you in terms of where you use it. It doesn't have to be just within the business environment. I believe that once you master the art of communication, you can use it anywhere else, because it's a universal language, so to speak. But you just cannot underestimate the importance of it. More often than not, you see great writes-up from people, and then the moment they open their mouth, you'll be like, wow, is it actually the same person who wrote this is the one that I'm speaking to? So there should be, I wouldn't say that a perfect match, but there should be a nearby perfect match, so that whatever you write is something that you can also communicate clearly to whoever. And like the old saying says, you should be able to communicate it to even a 3-year-old to understand exactly what is that you're saying. Keeping it simple, keeping it brief. You don't have to use words that are out of space just to make things more important. I believe that keeping it simple and straightforward is the way to getting into anyone's head, mind, and ears. So once again, this is another episode of Saul FRAZER's BizzChat, and it's a pleasure to always have you here, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.